range. We also work to recover threatened and endangered species, and we are a voice for wildlife in decision-making spaces, and that's where tonight's presentation falls under. One of the main ways we are a voice for wildlife is at the Board of Game meetings. We also want to thank NatHab for sponsoring our 2025 Wildlife Wednesday presentations and 2026. They're a great organization. They lead nature and wildlife experiences, some of which are up here in Alaska, and you can learn more about them at nathab.com. And just some basic Zoom etiquette. We'll just keep you muted throughout the presentation. If your internet's unstable, it's great to turn off your camera. I probably will be doing that because my Starlink is not having it tonight. And if you have any questions as we go, you can pop them into the chat and I'll keep track of them and we will have some time at the end to ask questions. And thank you. If you aren't already signed up for our newsletter, you can scan that QR code there or head to our website. It will pop up for you in a pop-up box. And thank you all to all of our members for making this work possible.
Great. Okay, I am unmuted. Good. Well, thank you again, everyone, for coming. Tonight, we are going to talk about the upcoming Board of Game proposals for both the Southeast and the South Central regions. So it's quite a lot of information, and hopefully my dog doesn't bark during the process. We'll see. So a little snapshot about what we'll learn tonight. First, we're going to learn about the Board of Game and how you can engage with this body. We'll take a quick journey through the upcoming Southeast proposals, as well as the proposals that impact wildlife in South Central Alaska. And then there should be time at the end for any of your questions in the chat. You can write them as we go, just as Chelsea said, and we'll try and answer them at the end. So a key question that I get a lot is, what is the Board of Game and why should I care about it? And even if you're not an avid hunter or trapper, the Board of Game impacts a lot of what we care about in Alaska. So if you are a wildlife viewer and you enjoy seeing wildlife but not necessarily hunting them, the decisions of the Board of Game have an impact on all of those species because these regulations cross boundaries and species. Speaking of species, the Board of Game manages the species bag limits, seasons, hunting methods for a huge variety of species, including birds, which not many folks realize. And so there's a huge diversity of species that are covered by Board of Game authority. The decisions that the Board of Game also make impact recreation, particularly in multi-use areas. There's been a lot of conversation about trap setbacks from multi-use ski trails, and that is under the purview of the Board of Game. They set the direction for wildlife management in the state and decide when there's an intensive management program or predator control. You might have heard of some of this with the aerial bear gunning programs in Mulchatna and just south of Denali. Those were Board of Game decisions. We can see the impacts of climate change in Alaska through Board of Game regulations as hunting seasons change, or the bag limits, which is how many a number of those animals can be taken each year. And we can see that in real time, how the landscape is shifting and how wildlife are responding through some of these hunting regulations. If you are a hunter and subsistence is important to your way of life, which it is for many Alaskans, including Alaska Wildlife Alliance, the Board of Game makes all of the decisions around allocation for who can hunt or trap what. And so there's a lot of allocative battles that are fought at the Board of Game. And then finally, there are species in Alaska that are only found in Alaska, and some of them are in pretty dire conditions. Doll sheep are among them. And so in terms of United States wildlife management, Alaska is really at the forefront of some really difficult decisions when it comes to the variety of species that we have and the number of ecosystems that the Board of Game is managing essentially through hunting and trapping regulations. So what is the Board of Game? As a quick overview, it's a 7-member board and each member serves 3-year terms. There are no term limits, so some board members have been on for years and years and years. The members, you can apply to be on the Board of Game, And then members are appointed by the governor and confirmed by the legislature. That process happens each year in the spring. I touched on this earlier, but the Board of Game determines many things: opened and closed seasons for hunting, the areas where hunting and trapping can occur, bag limits, which is again the number of animals that can be killed per session, essentially, methods and means. They set the policy and direction for the state's wildlife management and make some really sticky allocative decisions as well. And a lot of people, especially in Alaska, think that Alaska Department of Fish and Game makes the decisions around wildlife management, and it's simply not true. The Board of Game makes the decisions, and it's Alaska Department of Fish and Game's job to manage and implement the decisions that are made at the Board of Game. So let's just talk about what influences or who influences the Board of Game. So we have our board here in the middle. It's 3 icons, there's 7 in real life. The governor probably has the largest influence over the Board of Game. In this case, it's Governor Dunleavy. Making those nominations is pretty key to the administration's goals. And under our current administration, we see a Board of Game that reflects the priorities of the administration. Currently, the Board of Game does not have a biologist on the board, and it hasn't for a number of years. The legislature confirms the nominees, so they also have some control over the Board of Game, though it's very, very rare that nominations do not pass through the legislature. You can count a handful of times that hasn't occurred. And it's really important to note that Board of Game members have their own personal links and connections to a different variety of groups. This could be hunting interest groups, connections to the region that they come from. And so they're getting pressure from a lot of their community and network to make decisions. And that can't be overstated, how important that can be. Throughout the Board of Game process, the board solicits official input from 84 advisory committees. And these advisory committees basically act like small boards of game. So there is definitely an advisory committee in your community or in your region and possibly in your community. These members are elected to the advisory committee and they go through proposals, they submit votes, they pretty much go through the entire process of the Board of Game themselves, and they advise the Board of Game during the process. Advisory committee decisions or comments usually carry a little bit more weight because it was voted on, and they get more time to testify at the Board of Game because of that status. The board also solicits input from official agencies and departments. So this is Alaska Department of Fish and Game, Department of Law, Wildlife Troopers, and other departments and agencies. And then, of course, the public. There's a public comment period for written comments and for oral testimony. So what's the structure of the Board of Game? Every year, there are 2 Board of Game meetings, one in January and one in March. And the Board of Game takes up proposals for different regions on a 3-year cycle. So I have the cycle copied here. This year, this is the 2025-2026 regulatory year. We have 2 meetings. The first is in Southeast in January, and then the South Central region. Next year, the board will take up proposals for the interior region and the Arctic and Western regions. And then in 27 and 28, that's when we'll discuss Central Southwest regions and statewide regulations. So each region is heard essentially on a 3-year cycle. And the process in which the board receives proposals is that there's a call for proposals from the public. Anyone can submit a proposal. Alaska Department of Fish and Game can submit a proposal. You or I or anyone can submit a proposal to the Board of Game. The proposal closure is usually May 1st, and so if you wanted to submit a proposal for the interior region, you would be doing that this spring. So the proposals are submitted to Alaska Department of Fish and Game, and their board support staff, which are great, compile them into a proposal book. And in the fall, they publish that proposal book online and solicit public comments from advisory committees. That starts the clock on getting comments from departments and agencies, as well as the public. So here are some photos of a Board of Game meeting. It was hard to find some that were really engaging, but you can see the board is kind of in a horseshoe shape, surrounded by support staff. And then at the table at the end, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but there's some folks testifying to a screen. That's where the public testimony happens. This is from the photo on the left is from a board meeting in Kenai, and on the right from Dillingham. You can see the gentleman sitting and testifying before the board that's a little bit out of view on the right. So that's just a view of what these meeting spaces look like. And so if you go to a Board of Game meeting, I just wanted to outline what that process is. So we have the board ready to go. When the meeting starts, they have their ethics disclosures, they kind of welcome the meeting and kick things off. While that's happening, at any point throughout the public comment period, which is the first 2 to 3 days of the meeting, there are little blue cards available at the desk, and you can write your name, and if you want to testify, you would write down what topics you wanted to testify on, and you would give that to the board support. Once you submit your card, oh, and I should mention, you can submit a card for someone else too. You have to be in the room to testify, but if you know a friend or a family member is coming, you can fill out a card for them and turn it in. At that point, the support staff makes a list that's posted around the room that has the order of the cards that they received. So you might be 5th on the list. There's no time slots to testify for, and the board can take breaks for breakfast or lunch, or not breakfast, kind of a midday break. And so one thing that we run into a lot is that people want to go in, testify, and potentially leave. But it can take a lot of time because you don't know how long the testifiers ahead of you are going to take. Generally, testimonies are 3 to 5 minutes for individuals and 10 to 15 minutes for advisory committees. And the board can ask questions of you when you testify. So someone might be up there testifying for 20 minutes, or they could be up there for 2 minutes. So just wanted to frame out that you need to take a lot of time when you intend to testify at the Board of Game. So that process happens for about 2 days, 2 to 3 days. The board will post when the final timeline is to submit a blue card to testify. And once that's completed, the public comment period is closed. So there is no more public comment taken on the record after that point. There's a little caveat there I'll mention at the next slide. At that point, the board will start deliberating proposals. So first, they'll hear from the Department of Fish and Game, as well as any other relevant departments, about either the region, relevant reports, or about proposals themselves. They'll take proposals up one at a time and hear a presentation from Alaska Department of Fish and Game about their recommendations on the proposal. Then the board deliberates. They can amend the proposal, they can oppose it, or carry it as written as well. That process repeats and repeats and repeats until all 200 plus proposals, potentially, of a region are completed. This can take anywhere from 5 to 7 days. I mentioned that the public comment period was officially closed at the start of the deliberations, but there is something called a record copy that you can submit if you miss the deadline. So if something comes up and there's a comment that you really want to say, you could submit a record copy online, and that would be in the meeting documents, but it's not, because it's happening during the meeting, not all board members may see those record copies. So if you want to submit comments, it's really important to do that during the public comment period, because record copies may not be read before a decision is made. One other important thing that comes up often is that once a proposal has been voted on, it's not set in stone until the meeting is over. I've seen it many times where the last day of the meeting, during a miscellaneous business, a board member will ask to reconsider a proposal that might have been taken up days prior. And so a proposal is not officially voted on and done really until the meeting is gavelled out. So if you want to look up some of this information on your own, you can just Google Alaska Department of under Alaska Department of Fish and Game, the Board of Game website. And here on this left-hand side is the menu that will get you all the information that you need. So if you are interested in getting involved in the advisory committees, which I had mentioned prior, you can click on that advisory meetings or committees tab. And there you'll see general information about the advisory committees, as well as any upcoming meeting schedule. So for example, tonight the Matt Valley AC is meeting during this meeting, as is the Delta Fishing Game AC. If you're interested in getting involved in the AC in your region, you can click on that advisory committee by region, and it will pull all of these 84 advisory committees. I just clicked on Kotzebue Sound because it was the first one, but you can click on whichever AC is in your area. And that will pull up the general guideline and makeup of the advisory committee, the ADF&G regional coordinator who's responsible for coordinating that advisory committee, and the staff. The support staff does a tremendously good job coordinating the ACs. It gives the committee members and then any upcoming meetings or past meeting minutes. So this is a really good resource for getting involved at a local level. Back to our main page. If you are interested in the proposals that are coming up, so this is Southeast and South Central for this year, you click on that proposal book link, and that will take you to a page that is delineated between the Southeast region, the top there, and the South Central region. You can view the proposals all at once. You can view them by region. They do a really good job splitting it out so that you can see proposal by proposal, by region, or as a whole. So that's the source of these proposals that the board will be deliberating. And finally, if you're interested in getting involved in the meeting, you click on that meeting information, and that will pull up all of the Board of Game meetings that are upcoming and past meetings. If you missed a meeting or you want to go back and figure out what the board voted on in a previous year, you can always link back to those meetings through that table. But if you're interested in moving forward in the Wrangell or Kodiak meeting coming up this next year in 2026, you would I just selected the Wrangell meeting for Southeast, and it'll pull up a meeting information page that is constantly updated throughout the meeting. This page will look a lot different in a couple of weeks. As I mentioned, those record copies that you can submit during the meeting will all be posted on this page, as will a summary of all the public comments. But for right now, some of the most important links on this page I find are the department reports and comments on proposals. So as you can see, it says Alaska Department of Fish and Game staff comments. So if there's a proposal that you're interested, you can read what ADF&G thinks about it. These are often published pretty close to the meeting. So, and they'll be updated as we go. But if you want to submit a comment, which we encourage you to do, you click here on this submit comment link. And they change the form every year. This year is different than it has been in past years, but I'm excited about it. I think it'll be really user-friendly. So there's comment instructions once you click on that button, and you can see clearly that the comment deadline for Southeast is January 9th. You'll scroll down proposal by proposal. I chose a proposal that I know Alaska Wildlife Alliance is going to support, Proposal 48. Once you click support with amendment, oppose, or a general comment, it will pop up a box that requires you to explain your position to the board. So that's where you can explain why you have the position you do. If you're old school and you'd prefer to write your comments in a Word document and upload those, they also have that option at the bottom of the screen, and you can submit general comments. So that's how you comment online. And again, when we're talking about these regions, because it's hard to know, what exactly is South Central, Southeast, the board does this through game units. And if you're not a hunter, this is how the board talks about and delineates regulations over geographic space. So for this year, which is really 2026, the orange regions, the orange game units are up for deliberation, as are the yellow game units. So again, if you can see my mouse, this lower section. Next year will be the interior, which is all the green game units, and the Arctic and Western region, which is really all the blue regions. So that's how we move around the space with these the state with these regulations. Briefly going over the timeline just to get oriented to where we are. Spring 2025, the proposals were submitted to Southeast and South Central, and the Board of Game confirmations took place. This fall, the proposal book was released, and the advisory committees began to review those proposals. December, where we are now, the departments have published most, they will probably publish more before the holiday break, comments on those Southeast proposals. In January, the public comments for the Southeast meeting are due, and the Southeast meeting will take place in Wrangell at the end of January. And then in March, again, the departments will submit their comments. Public comments are due March 6th, and the meeting will take place March 20th through 25th in Kodiak. Okay, that was a lot of information about what the Board of Game is and how you can engage with it, but let's talk briefly about the proposals that are coming up. I want to caveat that we're not diving into any of these proposals very deeply. This is really meant to be an overview, and at the end I'll talk about resources if you're interested in diving into those proposals specifically. So, oh, I skipped ahead. Here we go. Ways to get involved. You can get involved with your advisory committee. You can engage with the Board of Game nomination process if you're interested in talking to your legislator. You could submit a proposal, or you could review proposals and submit written or oral testimony, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. Okay, as I was saying, let's dive into the Southeast proposals. So these are the proposals that have comments due in early January. I broke them out by region so you can see what the spread is. And I want you to note that there's 69 Southeast proposals because this is very different than the number of proposals in South Central. It's a pretty even split between most of the regions, but Prince of Wales certainly has quite a few, as well as the regional and multiple unit proposals. And we'll take a look at how these proposals impact different species. The way that the graph aligned some of the smaller slivers you can't quite see without the mouse over them, but this is the spread of all of the proposals in Southeast, what species they are, the hunting or trapping regulations are targeting to influence. So let's start with the region-wide proposals. So these are proposals that propose to change hunting or trapping regulations across the entire region. That's that whole orange block. Again, breaking it down into which proposals or what species would be impacted by changes in these regulations for good or bad. And I pulled a couple of highlights here. Proposals 1, 2, 12, and 13 regard night hunting and artificial light. You will see this in a lot of regions, I think, coming up. And that's because in the March meeting in 2025, the Board of Game made it legal statewide to use infrared light, basically expanding night hunting. And there are a number of proposals that seek to restrict the use of forward-looking infrared in these regions, I think, in response to that statewide liberalization. Interestingly, there are 2 proposals to set a hunting season for mountain lions or cougars, again, reflective that they're coming into the area, potentially. One proposal, number 3, to allow same-day airborne shooting of goats, and then proposals 6 and 17 propose to extend the wolf hunting seasons region-wide. Polling highlights from the Sitka area, many of these were about brown bears, and all of them proposed to extend or increase the brown bear bag limit or season. Also, a proposal to increase the non-resident bag limit for deer, proposal 23. And there are a couple of proposals to modify controlled use in closed areas. Those are proposals 24 and 25. The next region that the department clumps together is Juneau, Haines, Skagway, and Yakutat. This is across a couple different areas, but these were the main highlights. Proposals to change the bag limits or antler restrictions for Douglas Island deer harvest. Uh, some proposals to change the limit for brown bear hunting from one bear every 4 years to be able to hunt one bear every year. That's both in Juneau and in Yakutat. There's a proposal to have a moose hunt for disabled veterans in Yakutat, establish archery only in some controlled areas, and shift the ptarmigan hunting to 2 weeks later in the Juneau area than it is now. Ketchikan and Prince of Wales. AWA has done quite a bit of work in this region in the past couple of years, so there are some proposals I wanted to take a little time on here. The first concerns wolves, and this was the majority. When I think of Prince of Wales, I think it's wolves and deer. Every cycle, those are the species that dominate the Board of Game proposals and regulations. And there's one really interesting proposal, proposal number 48, submitted by the Alaska Department of Fish and Game. And this proposal is to increase the Unit 2, which is essentially Prince of Wales Island, wolf objective from 150 to 200 wolves to 200 to 300 wolves. And this is very interesting because this is almost identical to a proposal that Alaska Wildlife Alliance submitted in the last cycle. Since that time, we've participated with many other organizations and individuals in the Alexander Archipelago Wolf Management Plan. In the last cycle, as I said, we submitted a proposal to increase the wolf population objective to 250 to 350 wolves. It was unanimously denied. But we continued to advocate for this species of wolves, the Alexander Archipelago wolves. You can learn more on our website. We have a page dedicated to the Alexander Archipelago wolf. And for those of you who are really skookum on AWA's actions, you may recall that we were engaged in litigation around this wolf population. Essentially, the trapping regulations that were passed 2 cycles ago liberalized the wolf hunting season or wolf trapping season to the point where it looked, at least on paper, that all of the wolves on Prince of Wales had been trapped in one season. And so we've been working to make a more sustainable wolf management plan in this region, and we are very supportive of this proposal number 48. I should caveat that there are multiple wolf trapping proposals also before the Board of Game. Those are proposals 49 through 52. So I encourage you to check those out. As I said, deer is another big one for this region. There is kind of everything under the sun. Proposal to reduce the deer bag limit, to change the season dates, or increase the bag limit in seasons. So those proposals are listed there, and I encourage you, if you're in the region, to take a look and see which proposals you'd be interested in supporting or opposing. And finally, for other species, there's, again, as I mentioned prior, there's a couple of proposals concerning the use of night vision in hunting or trapping various species. And there's also a proposal to have trap and snare ID tags in this region. So a lot of interesting stuff coming out of Prince of Wales and Ketchikan. Petersburg and Wrangell, it was remarkable. If I was to pull a theme, it's elk. So many proposals about elk. So I encourage you to look at that. There is one proposal to adjust the brown bear bag limit. Apologies for the typo. Closed area modifications in the region for proposals 67 and 68. And a proposal number 69 to extend the grouse hunting season. So that was a whirlwind, but that is a very, very top level highlight of some of the Southeast proposals that are coming before the board and available for public comment until January 9th. But there's another region in 2026 that we also need to talk about, and that's the South Central region. So this is the yellow game units highlighted here. As I noted before, there were 69 Southeast proposals. There are 190 South Central proposals. So a significantly increased number of proposals for this region. And they're split between, the majority really are from Kenai Peninsula. Kodiak is second. and then region-wide in Cordova. I had to abbreviate that sliver to be able to show the portions, but AM stands for antlerless moose reauthorizations, and BBTF is brown bear tag fee exemptions. The antlerless moose and brown bear tag fee exemptions are for all over the state, not just limited to the South Central region. It's kind of a little caveat to the normal board cycle, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Similarly to what we talked about with the Southeast proposals, this is a breakdown of the species that would be impacted by these different proposals, again, for good or bad. The smaller slivers we can't see unless we scroll over them, but we have all of big game, kind of miscellaneous fur bearers, beavers, birds. But as you can see, the majority really are moose, goats, bears, and sheep had a surprising number as well. So again, we'll start with region-wide. So these are proposals that would impact all of the yellow geographies. Pulling some high points, this isn't all of them, but just some that I thought were interesting. Proposal 70 seeks higher restrictions for hunters who accidentally kill nanny goats, essentially not letting them hunt for longer. Proposals 71 and 72 are trying to juggle a really tricky situation, which is that at the statewide meeting in March, the Board of Game authorized Dall sheep as an intensive management prey species, which means that they defined them as being important for high levels of human consumptive use. And so when we have areas, particularly in South Central, though across the state sheep populations are declining, where we have very, very few sheep, sometimes just a handful, it's very hard to manage a population objective for such a small population of sheep. And so those two proposals are pretty in the weeds and kind of nerdy about figuring out how to manage these really, really small sheep populations. There's also Proposal 73 to define the terms that impact bear baiting setbacks. These include the definition of permanent dwelling, trails, and established buildings. Proposal 74 I thought was interesting, encouraging that a wounded bear would count against a hunter's bag limit. So if you shot a bear and injured it, you would not be able to, you'd have to apply that bear as if you had killed it. And then one proposal to require an online trapping education course for the whole region.
Nicole, do you happen to have the number for that one, the trapper education one?
I will pull it up at the end. I do. It's just not right with me at the moment.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. So we'll go region by region. Of course, it was the one that I forgot to put right on the slide. So let's go first at the Cordova area. There is a proposal to reduce the non-resident deer limit. Again, these are highlights. This is not a full comprehensive list of everything in Cordova. There are a number of proposals to increase or decrease hunting of black bears. So you can kind of go either way on those. There's one very interesting permit, which is a recurring issue, and this proposal, number 85, seeks to restrict hunters from shooting big game from a boat without a permit. And then there are a couple of proposals to adjust moose and goat seasons or permits. The Anchorage area is had a number of proposals, again, pulling up some themes there. There are so many proposals to limit the non-resident allocation for how many goats, moose, sheep, or brown bear non-residents can harvest under the existing hunting permits. As I mentioned in the region-wide overview, that there's a couple of proposals seeking to change the way that we manage Dall sheep season and areas, especially in light of this intensive management finding. Bears. There were bear liberalizations and proposals to further restrict bear hunting. So a couple of proposals, particularly 183, to liberalize the bear seasons Again, this theme that seems to be coming up more and more is a push to include wounded bears in the bag limit, which is something that AWA supports. And then proposals to increase the black bear limit, which is proposal 187. A couple of proposals concerning bear baiting, and this is for both black and brown bears. So one, proposal 196, seeks to expand access to bear baiting by allowing same-day airborne take of black and brown bears at bait stations. And another, proposal 187, seeks to restrict the brown bear baiting within 5 miles of Kinnick River Road. So one seeks to expand, the other to limit. And then proposal 197 is to require ID tags on traps and snares within 14C, which is the anchorage area. Kenai Peninsula had a lot of proposals as well, many of which were on goats, that I should caveat that those were almost all about limiting the non-resident allocation of goats. Moose were another big topic, as were sheep, bears, and then trap setbacks for multi-use areas. So some themes from the Kenai Peninsula. Again, a concerted effort to limit the non-resident permit allocation for moose, goats, caribou, and sheep. You can see them, there's probably a dozen or so of those. There are a number of proposals to both limit and expand motor vehicle use for moose hunting in 15C. This is the Caribou Hills area. Those are proposals 97 through 104. Again, similar to all these south central regions, trying to figure out how to manage sheep that are in decline. So there are a number of proposals for Dall sheep seasons and permit changes. Adjustments to the brown bear seasons and restrictions within those seasons. There are 5 proposals taken up, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but AWA will be supporting some and opposing some, and we'll have more information about how you can learn more about that later. A number of proposals all seeking to lengthen the lynx trapping season, and then a number of proposals to establish trap setbacks from multi-use areas. So these are highway pullouts, designated or specified trails, beaches in the Cooper Landing area, and to require, there's one to require signage for all traps set in the area. So those proposals are 145 through 150. And then there are 3 proposals to close the beaver trapping in all or in part of 15C, which is kind of the lower peninsula, Homer, Caribou Hills area. And one note on the trap setbacks, on our website, akwildlife.org/safe trails, we have a Map the Trap platform. So if you encounter a trap when you're recreating, you can go on your phone and pin it on the map so that other hikers and skiers and skaters can see that. And then before you go out, if you want to go to an area, you can check it online and see if anyone's seen a trap. It's our effort to try to reduce dogs getting caught in traps. Okay, we're coming close to the Kodiak area. Again, lots of goats, elk, deer. I always expect more bear proposals in the Kodiak area. And then you'll notice that there's a section, again, addressing this question that was just sort of started more and more this March about artificial light and night vision, as well as some about trapping regulations generally. Again, highlights from the Kodiak area. There are a number of proposals about deer, bag limits, allocation between residents and non-residents, and then sex restrictions within those hunt areas. So, for example, there's one proposal that is asking that does not be able to be taken if there are fawns present. So you can look into all of those on those proposals. There are proposals asking for up, down, and sideways on elk. So if you're interested in elk, proposals 210 through 219 should be right up your alley. Similarly, many proposals for goats, season limits, bag limits, allocation, permit draws. It's all there. Those are proposals 220 through 232. And then we have our brown bear proposals 233 through 238. Again, there's some that are seeking to liberalize the hunting, some seeking to restrict it. Again, just with this theme of pushing for counting a wounded bear against a bag limit, that is what proposal 235 is asking for, and seemed to be, again, a theme that was coming out throughout the region. And it's not new this year. The last cycle also had a number of proposals seeking to count a wounded bear against the limit. From my memory, they all failed. There are a couple of proposals for, I don't want to say miscellaneous because that implies that they're not important, but sea ducks, fox, minks, and river otters about their seasons and harvest methods. Very important to review. And then again, also thematic to the region, proposal 244 is asking to require ID tags on all traps and snares in the area. And again, artificial light and night vision, creating more restrictions or detailed understanding of what is and isn't allowed. Those are proposals 245 through 248. Some of them concern hunting, some of them concern only certain species like fur bearers or big game. Some are about trapping, so that's where you can find all that information. And so that was a very, very large overview of the South Central proposals. Those comments are due on March 6th, so there's a lot more time for those. And I should caveat, I didn't add a slide about the antlerless moose or the brown bear tag fee exemptions. They're kind of a different can of worms. When the time comes to comment on those, AWA will be publishing our positions, and we're always welcoming questions from folks on how to get involved in the Board of Game. So I just felt like it was too much information at once tonight, but we're happy to talk if you're interested in those proposals. So what is next? AWA is working on our comments right now for the Southeast region, really for both regions, but the pressure is on for Southeast. We will have the comments posted on our website by January 1st, we're hoping, if not very shortly after, but our goal is the 1st. You are welcome to lift, borrow, regard our comments in your own. You can find those on our website. We'll have them published in our news blog. We'll also let folks know when they're published through our social media, which is on Facebook and Instagram. It's a good way to follow us for all of our action alerts. We will also post our comments against the South Central proposals in late February. So we try and give members a week or so to review our comments to help draft theirs. That's always our goal, but you know, some of these timelines are a little tight. So that's where you can find more about AWA's positions on all of these proposals. And I wanted to end with some tips for testifying if you are able to attend any Board of Game meeting, but in 2026, either the Southeast region in Wrangell or the South Central meeting in Kodiak. So one important thing is to provide context as to who you are. The board may not know you, and often people will go up and start talking about their opinions, but it's important to let the board know who you are, why your voice matters, why your opinions are credible, and really emphasize the experience that you have in the area, that you're a credible source for that testimony. The other thing is to be wary of time. Usually individuals have between 3 and 5 minutes. The board will let you know what the limit is, and it goes faster than you think. So we always encourage people to practice, but what's probably most important is to focus on the key points. In 3 minutes, you're not going to be able to say everything that you want to say. And so relieve yourself of that expectation and focus on 2 to 3 really key points that you want the board to take away with. If you submitted a written comment at the board meeting on the board meeting webpage that we talked about way earlier in the beginning of the night, you'll be able to see what number your comment gave. So I submit my comment. When the comment book and summary comes out, I can see that my comment was numbered 43. So when I testify, I'll say, I'm here to testify on these specific proposals, and you can see my full comments as public comment number 43. That's a really good way to engage the board because they can ask you questions, and encouraging them to ask you questions is a good way to get more time. I have had so many smart, wonderful, engaged people write incredible testimony that they want to give to the board. And they are nervous because you're in front of a microphone. There's a room of people behind you. It's completely understandable. But I've seen many, many exemplary testimonies be read line for line, word for word in front of the board. And to the extent that you can, I try to encourage people to write their testimony in bullet points and pretend like they're having a conversation with the board. The board is hearing hours and hours and hours of public testimony, and I think the ones that really stand out are ones where the testifier made a connection with the board members. They made eye contact, they shared a story. Again, you only have a couple of minutes, so that's very hard, but I think it's more impactful when they feel like there's a real human talking to them as opposed to just reading something. But I know that the public speaking can be very intimidating as well. Again, I would allow a lot of time on the day that you plan to testify because you could sign up and have to wait 3 hours. You could sign up and testify right away. It really is difficult to plan, and so we love to have public testimony and encourage you to just block the day if you are going to try to testify over that weekend. And finally, I would utilize the breaks. The Board of Game members will come out during breaks and go say hi to them, introduce yourself. You can make those connections that way. That's a really good way to connect outside of this really formal, kind of rigid feeling process. And above all, it's really important to be respectful in your comments. I have had many meetings where the board made decisions that I really disagreed with. And it can be hard sometimes, but civility and remaining respectful during this process is really important. And so just make sure that when you're testifying or writing your comments, you're not pointing the finger, not any individual, but just stating your position in a respectful manner. So I wanted to say thank you to all of you for being here tonight, but also thank you to all of the members and supporters and volunteers who help us with this work. Board of Game meetings are not always the most exciting on paper, but really meaningful and important decisions are made at these meetings. And without your support, we couldn't be there and be a voice for wildlife and help other people come and be a voice for wildlife. So I just really wanted to thank you all for your interest. And if there, oh, great, there's time. I know I raced through a lot, but if there's any questions, I'll have Chelsea facilitate that. And actually, Chelsea, while you do that, I'm going to run and grab my proposal book so I can answer Robin's question.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to pop them in the chat, or we're a small enough group that if you want to unmute and ask, that's great too.
Looking through what proposal that was while people look.
Just the night vision piece. I have pleasantly not been paying attention to the board for the last couple of years. Is that something that they just said statewide in a statewide meeting?
Yes. Yeah, it was, I could pull up the proposal. AWA was very opposed to this proposal, as were, if this is recorded, so I hope I'm correct, but it's my recollection that every Southeast Advisory Committee was also against it, as well as many advisory committees in the interior. So yeah, it authorized forward-looking infrared for statewide. And so long as you have a trapping license, I believe. So whether or not the animal was trapped seemed to be one of the concerns, particularly in Southeast, where there's a lot of conversation about not just night vision, but flashlighting deer, essentially, from the beach and the boats. And so I think a lot of these artificial light and forward-looking infrared flashlighting proposals are coming from Southeast to try and get an exemption from that statewide authorization. I was pretty surprised. I was surprised that they passed it statewide, given all of the opposition. The proposal was submitted by the Fairbanks Advisory Committee, and the year prior, the board had authorized forward-looking infrared for the interior region, all of the interior region, and then the Fairbanks AC sought to have that open statewide.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, any other questions from anybody?
Oh, Robin, I just looked up that proposal. It's for the region-wide trapper education class. It's proposal 75.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Well, if there's no more questions, Nikki, is there anything you would like to finish on?
No, I think, well, I was just going to throw into the chat the proposal link just so folks could see it if they want. Yeah, I think the last highlights, thank you again for coming. I know Board of Game regulations don't sound super thrilling, so maybe we'll title our next regulatory meeting something else, but I do really appreciate you all coming. And if you, many of the folks on this call are so involved in the Board of Game process. Often we look for volunteers if there's a proposal in an area that we might not know a lot about or we want to bounce ideas off. We love to use our network. So you can email either Chelsea and I and say, I'm a hunter in this area, and we'll keep you on a list of people to contact. But yeah, just look more for our proposals. We'll get those out, or our comments on the proposals. We'll get those out as soon as possible. And thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nikki, and thanks for everyone for coming out tonight. Our next Wildlife Wednesday will be the third Wednesday in January, featuring Devin. He's a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service biologist, and he will be talking to us about Pacific walruses and the work he's been doing on population modeling and haul outs and working with native communities that still have walrus subsistence practices. So we hope to see you then, and have a great holiday, everyone.